Urban Renewal Agency. First item is the acceptance of the minutes from the May 2nd meeting. Moved by Mr. Palomini, second by Mr. Riggi. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item is Resolution 2016-07, transfer of 310 Green Street to the Capital Region Land Bank. Entertain a motion to move. Moved by Mr. Palomini, second by Mr. Mudaviran. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any other business to come before the agency? Moved by Mr. Palomini, second by Mr. Perazzo. All in favor?
Aye.
Agency stands adjourned.
He never look at us. He didn't give us any comment. No, he was favorites.
Okay. I'm going to call to order the Finance Committee. And tonight we have the 2015 Audit Acceptance. Mr. Genova.
Good evening. So we have concluded, obviously, our 2015 calendar fiscal year, and our auditors, Cusack and Company, have completed their audit. They're here tonight to do a presentation and walk you through the statements, which I believe you should have received in your packet. So I'd like to introduce to you Mr. James Cusack. He's here with staff member John Kowalski, and Mr. Cusack's going to walk you through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cusack? No, come right up here so the folks at home can also enjoy your presentation.
Very good. Just to give us a quick summary of what our engagement is. Our engagement is to audit your financial statements and your federal programs to make sure there are no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We want to make sure your financial statements have no material misstatements. We're pleased to report that we found no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses. Our report, which is pages 9 through 11, is only modified because the city has made a decision not to reflect fixed assets. That would require a significant expenditure of money to get an appraisal of your infrastructure, and it's not required. The regulatory basis of accounting does require that financial statement, but we can issue an audited financial statement without that government long-term asset. So in order for us to render this opinion and to complete the audit, we spend the better part of 3 weeks on site here. We spend typically a week in December, and we audit your internal control systems. We update your systems documentation, make sure we have all the changes in your systems, and make sure that the systems are running the way they're planned to run and in good shape. Then our focus in March turns to the year-end balances. Your city, unlike other municipalities, has the ability to prepare your financial statements and prepare your footnotes. So we come in and audit the funds first, and then we back off and wait until the financial statements are prepared. We then audit the financial statements, and the main financial statements is the 58-page document you see here. Pages 1 to 8 are called the manager's discussion and analysis. And if you only had time to read those 8 pages, those pages do an excellent job highlighting the results of your operations for 2015, how you compare to prior year, and how you compare to budget. As I mentioned, page 9 to 11 is our report. That's our opinion on your financial statements, that they're not materially stated, in accordance with general accepted accounting principles and government audit standards. The main financial statements are pages 12 to 22. 12 to 13 are your general fund, and to highlight some changes or some items, in the general fund you budgeted to use $3.5 million of reserves that you had carried over from 12/31/14. And through cost savings, you were able to use only $2.3 million. So you had, on page 13, you'll see you had about $3.9 million of expenditure savings compared to budget. And while the revenues fell a little short, it mainly was a lot of the properties that you've been taken back on foreclosure, so the property tax collections were a little less than budget. However, your foreclosure income was a little more than budget, kind of balanced that out. And again, you plan to use $3.5 million, which only needed to use $2.3 million. And those savings I mentioned in the budget, in your expenditure side, were across all departments. All departments had budgeted savings, which is good. Pages 14 to 16 are your other operating funds, that being the water fund, the sewer fund, and the golf and recreation fund. Each of those funds reported a surplus this year. Page 20 is your capital projects. And you might look at that and say, you see an $18 million deficit, but that's just the way government accounting standards require. You report the expenditures and borrow money on a short-term basis, so those are called on anticipation note borrowings. So you create the excess expenditures from borrowed funds, and then when you fund those bands on a long-term basis through bonds, that's when the revenue is reflected and the deficit is removed or eliminated. Some of the major projects that you had this year were paving projects throughout the city, some water and sewer projects, and some work down at Erie Boulevard. Page 22 is your long-term debt. It's called your non-current liability account group, is otherwise known as long-term debt. And we did have a new accounting change this year called GASB 68. And basically what that requires municipalities to do, when you're in these statewide retirement systems, and in your case it's the ERS and the PFRS system, they require your city to reflect your percentage of the underfunded ERS and PFRS. It's the statewide system. So that was a new change, and it added $4.2 million to your long-term debt. A change that happened 7 years ago, another GASB 45, requires that you also reflect your share of an actuarial valuation of the post-employment benefit liabilities. Those liabilities are health insurance that you provide to your retirees and their spouses. And we're in our 7th year of the amortization of that liability. It's actually $71 million. The total liability that was valued, the actuarial valuation, is something like $282 million. But you bring that liability on over time. So it's just, again, you fund through your budget, your retirees' health insurance costs are funded annually through your budget. So this is, I would say, just a paper liability. The pages 23 to 58 are your footnotes, and each of those footnotes kind of give you much more detail to the numbers that are reflected in the main financial statements. We then complete the main audit, the basic financial statement audit, and then we focus on your federal programs. And because you received more than $750,000, in fact you received about $8.4 million in federal funds, you're required to have a single audit. And what that single audit requires us to do is look at your total expenditures, select programs on a rotational basis, and really dig deep into compliance with laws and regulations over those specific grants. So this year we did work on the HUD Section 8 program, some Department of Transportation funding, as well as Homeland Security funds. And again, happy to report that in the single audit federal area, we had no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses, and we gave you what we call clean or unmodified opinions on both the internal control systems as well as the schedule of federal financial assistance. We also issued what we call a post-governance letter. That would be considered a management letter. And we had a couple of very small items, and they're really more alerts for you to consider going forward. So it wasn't like we had major internal control weaknesses or findings, but we did have a couple items we'd like you to look at going forward, and we've already addressed those with management. You do have very good records. Your financial management does an excellent job preparing for the audit, providing us with records, making sure they're available the first day we come in the field. And I think that shows also your financial condition. You had reserves that you set aside that were needed for this year, and you're continuing to set aside smaller amounts of capital reserves rather than borrow money and bond those projects. You're setting aside capital reserves in each of the funds, and that's one of the topics when you read the management's discussion and analysis you'll see. So again, I think the city does a very good job of planning forward for situations, and we are very pleased with the results of the audit. I wanted to thank Debbie, Anthony, and everyone we work with throughout the city. They're very hardworking people, very responsive. If we have a request, they get right back to us immediately. And the audit went very smoothly again this year. And so at this point, if you had any questions, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the document, any of the paperwork. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, with John also as well.
Questions? Good? Mr. Revere? Just want to make sure you're all set? Good?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I assume you're available for future questions should
Certainly,
we have any. Thank you very much. And thank you to Ms. DeGenova and Mr. Ferrari and everyone else who played a role in getting the information needed and certainly the good work done throughout the year. And now we will talk about the 2016 budget reappropriation. Ms. DeGenova. I'm sorry. We need a motion to accept the audit. My apologies. Mr. Closure moves. Mr. Palametti seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. Reappropriation.
What you have before you is a request for your 2016 budget reappropriation. This was contemplated when we put together the 2016 budget, and what it does is it makes the retirement budgets whole for the city by using exactly $373,421 of fund balance and allocating it to the police and fire to make sure that we make the payment whole relative to the bill that we currently have in-house in the controller's office, and then a small amount for making the ERS payment whole.
Questions? This is good news, right? Moved by Mr. Palametti, seconded by Mr. Closure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good. We can retire.
And the wastewater infrastructure capital improvement bond, is Mr. Frank here?
Go, David.
Is someone else speaking to that?
Is that the end?
No?
I can speak to it.
We can have it.
Ms. DeGenova, did you want to speak to it, or Mr. Valentico?
I certainly can.
You don't need to.
It's a little bit of an important thing, so.
Sorry. So what you have before you is a request to pass a bond resolution that documents the potential issuance of $24 million of wastewater for a wastewater project. Now, this is required by the entity that we're applying for funding from. We're putting together a package of funding that right now is, we hope to be eligible for approximately $3.5 million in grant funding, $16.5 million in interest-free financing, and $4 million of subsidized AAA borrowing rate. But a requirement of putting this package together is we've been asked for council to pass a $24 million authorization for issuance of debt. It is not the intention of the city to have this be adopted next week and when we turn out, go to the market and do that. It is the intention to effectuate this ministerial step so that we can go forward and be considered for this round of funding, which we are very hopeful and really well positioned to receive the funding package that I outlined. But a requirement of that is to, I guess I could characterize it by saying that they're looking to be sure that we are committed to moving forward with this project, no matter what our funding process is.
Questions? So everybody understands we're passing resolution for this bonding, but to support our documentation to get this other finished.
Carl, do you have anything else to add? I didn't mean to.
No, just beyond this, we also need one resolution that's not on the agenda today, stating some seeker findings. This project is exempt from the seeker process, but in order for this application to go through, the state does want to see a resolution passed kind of stating that it's exempt due to this project being required by a consent order.
Okay. Should that be done in finance, or should we, Mr. Clerk, or should we have that in government operations? Seeker can stay right in finance? Okay. So first we will move and second the seeker process. It was moved by, it's nice Mr. Closure, but I'm sorry. Moved by Mr. Closure, seconded by Mr. Palametti. All those in favor? Aye. And second, we will move the wastewater infrastructure capital improvement bond. Moved by Mr. Palametti, seconded by Mr. Closure. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. So or the other after $24 million you'd like to pass? Doesn't seem like we're all in a lot of agreements. Okay, so next we are on to the foreclosure bond, and Mr. Palamini will speak to that first, and then Mr. Palatico will fill us in if we need more information.
So as you know, zombie properties are a problem throughout much of the country, particularly New York State and our city. And one way of combating that would be to require a foreclosure bond. And basically how that works is that banks or whoever's doing the foreclosure would be required to provide the city with some amount. The typical amount that I've seen in the research I've done is roughly $10,000. That can be used to pay the costs of cleanup or maintenance if the property falls into disrepair. The city would keep a portion of that for administrative costs, but should the bank not be a good citizen and maintain the property, the city would draw down from that to maintain the property itself. This is a tool that we can use to combat some of the blight that is caused by zombie properties. It's been adopted in cities such as Poughkeepsie, Youngstown, Ohio, Canton, Ohio, Greece, the town of Greece or village, I'm not sure which one it is, was considering that earlier in the year, but it's just a tool that we could use to combat this issue. It's been proposed in Buffalo as well by a legal scholar, I believe a scholar, Ann Dillon at SUNY Buffalo, and would be, I think, first in line of a number of things that we could do to try to combat this issue, along with what Assemblyman Santa Barbara is doing in the State Assembly. So if you have any questions or...
Mr. Palatico, did you have anything to... I'm sorry, Mayor.
This was also one of the recommendations from a group of students who were working with the Center for Technology and Government Albany Law School that looked at properties here in Schenectady and Albany and looked at options to how to deal with the distressed property. It won't solve all the problems, but again, it puts another option out there to help mitigate the problem.
Mr. Palatico, did you have anything on to add?
I think Mr. Palmini explained it very well. I put in a call into Gilderland just to find out what their experience has been like, because when they adopted this, it was part of kind of a bigger package with vacant building registration, this, and kind of a few other things that we already do. And I just want to see if they got any pushback, because somebody forwarded me an article showing that in Massachusetts, there's a municipality that adopted this, and then a couple of banks got together and they challenged it, and it was actually struck down as preempted by the state law. And that hasn't happened here yet, but that's one thing that's in the back of my head. So just interested to see if how stringently they've been enforcing this provision.
I saw that as well. There's Springfield and Worcester, mostly Springfield, that got pushed back on. But according to this article by Ann Dillon, she appears to find that there will not be anything that preempts the foreclosure bond ordinance in New York State. So I think it's worth perhaps going after and trying. If you want the article, I can send it to you.
I believe this information got sent to us a little bit late.
Yeah.
Did everybody have a chance to go through it? Do we want to hold it for a cycle so that everybody can thoroughly look through it while Mr. Palatico gets the answers? Do we want to pass it out of committee and then have Mr. Palatico fill us in? Or I saw a yes to holding it just one cycle so we could better look at it. Just try to get a feeling from everybody.
I would be comfortable with that.
Everybody, so we'll put it on for 2 weeks. And then Mr. Palatico,
But you can bring it forward for me.
yes, Mr. Kosher and I can successfully pass it out of committee if need be. We'll put it on for 2 weeks. Mr. Palatico, if you could provide the council with any information that you might find out from Gilderland, you said?
I'll check with Poughkeepsie as well, and Greece. I know they had one pending. I didn't know if they passed it yet.
Who?
In Greece?
Greece was considering it in February. I don't know that it's been passed yet. Poughkeepsie has passed it, and it's in play. And again, this legal article seems to think that there shouldn't be any issue, but I send this to you, you'll be more aware of that than I would be, so.
Well, sounds like something that's definitely worth pursuing, and so I hope we move forward with it. Protection for the city. Is there anything else to come before finance this evening?
Motion adjourned?
To adjourn by Mr. Closure, seconded by Mr. Palamani. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We are adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Palamani, for your hard work on that. And next up is government operations, and we have the Municipal Housing Authority CEA agreement. I'm sorry, CSEA agreement. Thank you. My brain is not working faster than my mouth is. And we have Mr. Hominick here to discuss this with us this evening. So, come on up.
Good evening. The Housing Authority has settled collective bargaining agreements with our CSEA union and our ASME 1037B union. Pursuant to New York State Public Housing Law, Section 32, I am to bring this in front of the local legislative body for approval, although there is no fiscal responsibility by the city for the Housing Authority's budget or paying any of the obligations under the contracts. It is a part of the old public housing law, so I bring it before you for that reason. Negotiations went well. We have two 4-year agreements that will expire March 31st, 2020, with various subjects that were negotiated, including the Affordable Care Act changes that are necessary looking ahead to getting our contracts compatible with the changes in the health law. And several other, I can do a quick briefing of what those are, or if you've read them already or have any questions, whatever you please.
Did this, the email with all the information go out to the council?
No.
I noticed it's not in the packet, but we had an email with all that information.
No.
Okay, so we'll get that information to
I didn't get
council.
anything. That was my
Not sure why it
question.
wasn't in the packet, but,
There's a couple of memorandums of agreement that we signed. They indicate any changes that occurred to the collective bargaining agreements that were in place. So,
I will make sure that, did you want to give us the important highlights, and then the council, we can pass it pending the information
Sure.
being reviewed, and if we have any questions in the meantime, we'll let you know, but at least.
Sure. Again, the Affordable Care Act to be in line with the metal plans, they're called, the platinum, silver, bronze plans. We had some changes to our random drug testing policy that now includes mandatory testing upon any kind of accidents that occur, vehicle accidents and other bodily injury, serious bodily injury accidents while on the job, primarily for people that work in maintenance and construction trades. The compensation will be 3%. We financially doing well, on par with that kind of increase over a 4-year period. We were much less in the last 8 years. We have a good staff, good hardworking employees, and we're pleased to come to an agreement on something that's acceptable to both sides. There were some changes to leave time, vacation, capping the amount of time that can be accrued to save on any of our long-term costs, and other minor increases in longevity pay. Although we did eliminate longevity pay for new hires, we did do a slight increase for people that are grandfathered under that clause. It's not that exciting. There's some savings on our side, and there's some give there. So I think it was agreeable. The unions voted on it, passed it the first time. I think it was unanimous. It was, I think maybe one person voted against it out of both unions. So it was a good experience. But if you have any questions after reading more of the detail, or if you'd like to have the entire copy of the collective bargaining agreement for each union, I'd be happy to email those to anybody.
And I just forwarded it to everyone while we're sitting here. So is everybody comfortable passing this out of committee, hinging that when you review the information, everything is looking good? Moved by Mr. Palomeni, seconded by Mr. Ferrari. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Palomeni. Okay, so next we have a discussion about recording equipment. Just to clear this up, Joe and I have not gotten married anytime recently.
You didn't have to take a name.
Nor are we related to anyone. But we have some, I'm sure the watchers at home have noticed we've had some challenges with our recording and our sound equipment of late, which apparently is quite antiquated. So I will ask Mr. Piazzo to come up and fill us in.
Thank you. I know, I noticed that too. We had a discussion of if somebody could be, father or daughter or something like that. But we decided that was
Uncle Joe. I settled on it.
we are Uncle. So we had a failure in one of our key components upstairs in our studio, like the city council chambers. It is the video switcher itself. It's one component of a much larger system that includes the speakers and the audio system and so forth. It was purchased new really in end of 2009, but as a unit, it was really on the market since probably 2005. We purchased the equipment right at the cusp when they were swapping over from standard definition to high definition. And because, as you know, you buy the first generation of anything, it's a lot more money, and they discounted the older generation. So we purchased a unit that was being phased out of production at the time, but it served us really well for the last 6 years. A caveat to that, which is interesting about that, however, we made sure that everything else that we had in the chamber was HD compatible. So all our cameras are high definition cameras. The cameras on the wall are high definition cameras, and that one is too, but they're actually switched to output a low definition signal because our switcher can't handle a high definition signal. So I've looked into repairs, and we could possibly do something. It's essentially a computer with cards inside that's running Windows XP. You can't upgrade the operating system. You can't go above XP. If you can't get drivers for parts. It's an old computer system. Thankfully, prices have gone down. That original box was probably close to $5,000. Now I believe we can replace it and upgrade to HD for about $2,800. That includes a brand new switcher box and the changes in cabling ends that go in each one of these rooms. And that's basically it that we have to, everything else stays, the monitors stay, and our audio system stays. So that's one request, is to repair that and replace it. And I think it would be very valuable because it would bring our entire system up to HD, high definition. Time Warner still is not broadcasting public access in high definition, but we will be prepared when eventually they do move the channels up into the upper tier, which I don't know when they'll do it, but we will be then a full HD situation. However, we will stream and record we will be able to stream and record in high def now, even though we wouldn't broadcast live in high def. We see an increased picture quality. Now, I'm also asking, and this is a request, but I've asked for $2,800 to replace that system. The other part that really needs replacing is these things. I don't even want to say where these came from, but they weren't purchased with this. They actually were found in a box. Those are really old, and their frequencies have been obsoleted by the FCC now. So, in fact, if you listen to, we have crackle interference, it's because cell phones and first responder signals are now on the frequencies that those operate. So we have nice, clean audio until either police or fire come in, or somebody's cell phone interferes and we hear popping. So I allocated about possibly $1,000, up to $1,000, to replace all the microphones in the audio system here. That will make a huge increase in audio system. I also put a wish list. You know, when you open up the hood of a car and you got to change a couple parts, you might as well change some stuff. For about $2,300, we could actually put a remote camera and eliminate all this wiring and camera for these things. We'd have a remote control camera that would just sit here on the wall. Could actually record many more meetings because we wouldn't need a camera operator sitting down here and moving cameras in and out. And then for $1,500, for a grand total of $7,900.
Oh, wait, there's more.
We could broadcast anywhere live in the city of Schenectady. And that would be a big plus also. We've looked into, because I've looked in with OSM the possibility of actually broadcasting our HD signal from City Hall to OSM. But that equipment would also allow us to take take that camera anywhere in Schenectady as long as we had a wireless connection, be able to go live with no wires. That's like $1,500. I mean, that used to be $20,000, 15, 20 years ago. It's amazing what you can do. But anyway, so I sent the thing and I kind of requested, I broke things down. I mean, obviously the switcher is critical. And then other than that, I'll say a smart city should look smart. You know?
That's a good one.
Nice pitch.
So anybody have any questions on that?
Questions, Ms. Porterfield?
Yes.
The absolute cost of $2,800, and the microphones, you think we really need to do those. So the $3,800, we could do that without doing the rest of this time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't have to all be done at once?
Right, it doesn't have to be at all.
But you highly recommend the switcher upstairs?
The switcher's critical,
Okay.
and I'd love to see us upgrade the audio in here, because it would make a huge difference in the way people can hear, and
Okay.
literally they get worse and worse as we go. They're gonna die. Just as a point, so that's almost a $40,000 system upstairs. We've never replaced a part or fixed anything in 6 years. We've never had to fix anything, buy any new parts. I've done all the repairs or maintenance to it, part of the thing, but we haven't invested in anything since we bought it. So, you know, it's been a good investment so far.
Questions, Mr. Porterfield?
So the live remote, Joe, do you still need somebody in the other room how would that videotape our meetings here?
Well, it's interesting now. What's nice about the new switchers is actually the switchers have an interface that works over wireless network. So I can literally switch to this program from my cell phone now. That's how advanced they've got, rather than sit up there. So I could actually control this program that's going on now from here, or from upstairs, or you can do wireless. You can actually control over like an iPad from just about anything.
That's what Niskiuna's doing now, I'm assuming, right? Because now they have the wide shot up there.
Yeah, the Niskiuna system, I actually installed in the Niskiuna system, and that's actually a component that Niskiuna has is something I'm kind of recommending we upgrade to. It's a Black Magic switcher system.
And that's where this price is here that we're talking about for the...
Yeah, it's a little downgraded from that. We don't need the component that they have because they have these different type of system.
Okay.
So it's a lower end component, and then we have to replace cabling ends to allow us an HD signal that goes over. We send our signal through the network here. But we have an end that has to convert it to.
Gotcha. And just one other follow-up. Our contract with Time Warner, isn't that coming up in maybe a year or two expiration? I mean, maybe that's something, that high definition feed is something that we try to negotiate in the new contract with Time Warner.
Well, Time Warner's going to be gone.
Yeah, they have a new owner.
Time Warner anymore. Well, whatever they're going to, you know what I'm talking about. Whatever, we're going to have a contract with somebody. But I think that's something that we should look for in the new contract. That's, I believe it's only 2 years left, because I think I was just talking from the OSM. They were here over the weekend at the Kids Fair, and we were talking about it. That I think there's only 2 years left on that contract. So that's something we really, because there is a major difference. But you know, I'm truly supportive of the whole thing here. I think it's a small investment, but I think people really rely on their broadcasts and really watch it religiously, believe it or not. I mean, but I would certainly be supportive of the whole thing for what these folks have done, especially since we haven't done anything for many, many years. I just think the tune-up is needed.
Other questions, comments? Ms. Porterfield?
Just wondering where from in the budget we would be able
I
to...
was going to ask Ms. DeGenova to come up next.
Okay. That's my question about where the money would come from.
Okay, any more questions for Joe? Okay, thanks, Chuck. So Ms. DeGenova, we have an unbudgeted request here.
If I understand what was just presented, we're talking approximately $7,600, is that right?
77.
10 grand.
Okay, right about. And this is equipment that is owned by the city. So we have the ability to fund this from our type capital reserves, the money that we set aside for capital purchases, the pay-as-you-go. Additionally, we do have funds in the budget in our contingency line, although that is usually where we can be responsive regarding needs for demolition and neighborhood needs regarding events such as fires and stuff. So I would recommend that we would fund this through our type capital reserves from the general.
So it sounds like there's support for at least part of this, which is the switcher and the microphones. Is there any discussion as to whether we want to fund part of it now and budget for the other portion next year, or just fund it all now, or what the use point for?
Well, if we have the funding, I would say just fund it all now and just do it at one time. I do.
And then we'll have Joe's salary too, since he'll just, be using a cell phone, right? Go down to part-time.
In terms of does any of this have to go out to competitive bid in terms of our purchasing of this? Does any of this fall under that? The prices?
We would have to,
It's a very small.
we'd have to work, our purchasing folks would have to work with Joe and just look at the specs and be sure that we follow our procurement rules appropriately.
So should we pass this up to that amount and then we'll go through the proper vending process, or should we wait until that process?
If you're comfortable, I would pass an up to amount, and I would give yourself just a little wiggle room. I'm not sure how recently you put these numbers together, but.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to be, if I was really cheap, but depending, I know the process, so you have to kind of make sure that you got retail.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is on state contract. If the city,
That's not gonna say state.
D&H Photo provides a state contract, it was blanket bid. I know when we bought this unit, everything came off of B&H's.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Makes it easy.
Yeah.
Mr. Paladini?
Probably for Joe. How much need is there for live broadcast remote? I mean, is there a lot of call for that?
Well, seeing it's not really ever been possible, the call of that, I think it would be an amazing ability to be able to live stream from just about anywhere in the city. I mean, when there's an event downtown, when we have these open houses for homes programs, the ability to live stream, I think would be invaluable. But obviously, that's something that you build a following for when it's a service we would offer to the citizens. I think they would enjoy it, and I think it would be very useful.
We had talked, or the mayor had made reference to having, live video on the website of events, the green market, whatever the case may be. Does this, I think you had talked about that in relation to the smart city lighting.
That is almost ready to be lit up out front now. That doesn't require any additional capital. It's just coordinating some of the infrastructure.
Right, but is this redundant?
Be really two different things.
Two different things.
Sure.
Okay.
We would be able to use the Wi-Fi. According to the presentations that I've seen, that the Wi-Fi that would be built into these smart streetlights would suddenly be an interconnection for anywhere we would have open Wi-Fi.
Right.
It would be a nice loop that we would have.
Yeah. And if we didn't, if you were in an area that didn't have Wi-Fi, would you still have that ability, or does it hinge on having the Wi-Fi?
Well, today you can actually
Use your phones.
You can
Use a hotspot or whatever. Yeah.
anything you can
Okay.
get a hotspot with.
Very good.
We'll just knock on doors and ask people to give us their
Make sure it's after dark, Joe.
Starbucks, a lot of cars in the Starbucks.
Any other questions? Maybe propose up to $8,000? Is that good question? Okay. So then we will propose that we purchase the equipment as recommended by Mr. Piazza, up to $8,000. If I could have a motion by Mr. Ferrari and a second by Mr. Palomeni. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Mr. Piazza, or Happy Holidays. Okay, and then we have a review of amending the city code regarding nuisance properties. This was passed out of committee. Sorry, let me just get back to that screen. Our Wi-Fi isn't working very well right now.
There we go.
That's why we have tape
Passed out of
delay.
committee. The last cycle, Mr. Thorne, it seems so long ago, but I think it's because we had that extra
Because we had
week.
an extra week, it was the
Yep.
last cycle.
And after it was passed out of committee, Mr. Mutaviran has some additional questions. So you are on, Mr. Mutaviran.
Okay, I did email a report from the ACLU to everyone. Just some concern in regards to the current ordinance that we are proposing to pass. That we are not, it doesn't capture or take care of people with domestic violence and also people with mental disability. So I asked that if we can just add that into this ordinance before we proceed. And I think we had discussion over emails of what we...
So I wrote back to the council with a proposal for handling the way the report went, and I took the language out of the report, is gender-based violence. And so it would exempt victims of gender-based violence from the point system in the calculation here. I didn't put anything about mental health issues because that wasn't the first issue that was raised, and I wasn't really sure how to work that in there. But that's something I can...
Yeah, because that was my concern, that people are victims of crime like domestic violence and people with mental disability. Because you might find majority of the calls coming from those two groups. And if we're going to institute points against them, we're going to be penalizing people who need help. Are we going to force them not to make calls because they are going to feel that they're going to be evicted and create a problem where we have domestic violence and mental disability, people need help. So I'm looking at how can we exclude that from the point system and move the ordinance.
So just for a little clarification, this isn't about people calling the police that reside. It's about neighborhood people calling police on a property. So I just want the public to be aware of that. And it was actually an unspoken thing with the domestic violence, but I think it's good to have it in writing. My question to Mr. Palatico about any mental health issues is how would we ascertain that that was the case?
That would be difficult based on the paperwork that we get, from these calls that we would rely on to add up the points. It's something we could certainly investigate and discuss with the mayor and come forward with the best proposal.
It just seems to me like how do you determine someone's mental health
And they
status?
would probably have something from a physician.
Right, well, that's what I'm asking. Would we, because I think that's an important part of it. Would it be a diagnosed mental health issue? Yes, Mr.
I
Coleman?
don't remember the legislation completely, but was there something in there that would, if the landlord didn't have a rental contract with the person? Because I can foresee a situation where there's phone calls on people who don't have rental contracts. Certainly that's a violation. We should not want that to happen. How do we piggyback that with what we currently have in legislation and murder law?
I'm confused by your term rental contract. Do you mean a lease or do you mean
A rental agreement.
certificate?
Rental certificate?
No, not a certificate. So I rent from Mr. Mudaber and I have to sign a contract.
Yes, a lease
It's a
agreement.
lease. It's a lease.
Well, lease.
But is it legal, do the landlords legally have to have rental agreements? Because I don't think that's the case.
They can
You
do,
don't have to have.
yeah, a lot of landlords do month to month, so that
Yes.
they get tired of it.
Right, which is what I'm getting to. This could be a problem where now you brought up the mental health issue where it could lead to some discrimination issues that I don't think we really want to go after. So how do we protect those individuals? I don't even know if it's possible. Just asking a question, I just popped in my head. So
And that was basically after reading this, and hope that everybody had an opportunity to look over it. Is protecting these class of people that you might find landlords going out there. And if you look at the documents, many cities were sued, and some city has actually repealed these documents after it was challenged by ACLU. I mean, I love the ordinance as a landlord. I love the ordinance to move forward, but then look at the other side as a city council member. We have to protect these class of people also, and maybe add it to the ordinance so that they are excluded from the point system.
Okay, so Mr. Paltito, you're willing to look into that? You're going to look into that?
I can definitely look into that. One thing I can tell you from the article, other municipalities did run into issues because their ordinances were more heavy-handed than the one that's being proposed here. This one, what we have doesn't require the eviction of tenants in situations. It's, you come in, you have a meeting, there are mitigation measures. Some of them were more specific about what had to happen in removing people from the housing, and that's where they ran into some problems. So it makes you feel any better. Not something that we're going to be running into with this conference.
And the original flavor of the legislation is to help landlords understand what's happening at their property. If the landlord doesn't live in close proximity of the property, maybe even if they have a property manager that's not making them aware of the fact that the police are being called to their property over and over and over again. So, and again, right, the city can't change the eviction process, but it's to heighten that awareness. So if you would look into the domestic violence clause, which we already discussed, which was already part of the original discussion, and then the mental health aspect of it. Is that all we're looking for as far as an adjustment at this point?
I mean, that's what I see. I don't know if anybody else has any stuff to add, but that's the two main points that we need to add.
And we'll bring that back in 2 weeks. It's already been passed out of committee technically, but we'll bring the changes back. Actually, probably bring the changes back within the week, right? And still pass it if the changes are. Is that time enough for you?
I can definitely have a proposal to the council within that time frame, and these changes wouldn't be significant enough that it would trigger a call for another public hearing. So it doesn't really change the nature of the legislation.
Okay, so if you could write out that clause and get it to the council, we'll put it on Monday's agenda, and as long as everybody's comfortable with it, we'll go forward with it on Monday.
I'd just like to suggest, because you said you weren't really sure how to handle the piece about mental illness, maybe reach out to NAMI. They may be able to assist you with that part.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Is there any other business to come before government operations?
move we adjourn.
Adjourned by Mr. Palmetti, seconded by Mr. Ferrari. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
All right, I will call to order the Committee on City Development and Planning. A few items here. The first was a ceremonial resolution to support the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act. Ms. Brosman.
Yes, for many, many years, the Assembly has been passing this, only to have it stopped in the Senate. It's basically offering gender expression to be non-discriminatory, which is not now, which I don't think anyone should clearly have the opportunity to be discriminated against. So we did pass this in support a couple of years ago, but just just thought maybe it would be a good time to offer our support once again to encourage the Senate to finally pass this bill. So that's all there is to that. More ceremonial than anything.
All right, move Mr. Multivarian, second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Second item is a revocable permit to Cornell's in Little Italy. And is Chris here?
I'm going to handle that for you.
You can handle the moment, right? Go ahead.
Training today.
All right.
But this, the first one is for revocable permit number 603 to Cornell's in Little Italy for a sign that's approximately 39 inches tall and 59 inches wide and overhangs in the right of way.
Any discussion? We all know where they are. All right, need a motion?
Second.
Mr. Multivarian, second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, second item is H&M Market.
Next one, revocable permit number 604 to H&M Market for a sign that's approximately 2 feet tall and 5 feet wide at 775 State Street.
Do you have a drawing of that? I don't see
See a
it.
drawing of that one.
It said it was a sign that was already existing, that they were just upgrading, they were updating.
It's been up there, yes. It's been up there. It's the same sign. Are there any violations or anything with this grocery store? Have we had any issues with H&M that we know of?
None that I've been made aware of.
Is there some, can we take a look at that and just let us know? I think it's an issue with all the stings and everything that have been going on. I just want to make sure we haven't had any issues with them. All right, I think just forward that to the entire council, Ms. Browse, is that all right? Just that information? All right, any other questions on that? Motion by Mr. Multivarian, second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pending
Right.
the information.
Pending the information, yep, just to making sure that everything is fine. And then to Roy Vincent, 605.
Revocable permit 605 to Roy Vincent for an awning that's approximately 32 inches tall, 30 inches wide, and 37 inches long, to hang it right away in a building located at 769 State Street. It's like Roy's Caribbean Restaurant.
Any questions? I drove by it just yesterday, and they're doing quite a bit of work inside there, so they're doing some heavy renovation, which is really good to see. And I think that's very important for the city to have that there, and a good small business. And any other questions?
So I'm just going to assume they've done all their work with the planning commission and all of that.
Yeah, these aren't supposed to come to you if that hasn't all been done yet.
Right, Planning Commission. Yep.
Okay.
All right, moved by Ms. Porterfield, second by Mr. Multivarian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 5, just calling for a public hearing for the multi-year dog license. And again, it was something I brought up. There's information in there that Chuck Thorne has included. Again, we're just looking to currently extend a dog license up to 3 years, which would expire on the date of the rabies vaccination expiration as well. There's no discount, but again, we're just going to allow them to extend that license for up to a 3-year period. And again, it'll cut down on some office work that we're doing currently, and again, having more dogs licensed, I think is very important. So let's just simply call for the public hearing on the 13th.
Oh, we just need to change the language in there. It says the hearing on June 6th. So we just need to correct that for.
Where's the typo?
Right down there.
Oh, there you go. So under evaluation and analysis, Chuck, did you see that?
No, I didn't hear that.
On June 6th, the public hearing, it's just a typo, it's going to be changed to June 13th.
Yes.
Thank you. Very good proofreading. Nice job.
this.
Thank you. Mr. Multivarian?
Second.
Ms. Porterfield, in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And the sidewalk replacement program.
That would be me. So I have updated numbers for everybody. Pass this on, Chuck. So
Good news. John got one too. How many do we have? One for five people?
there should be enough. I printed
Do
12.
we need another?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we may.
So
All right.
carry on.
All right, so everybody asked for some more specific numbers. it's hard to do that without having the properties, which we are working on to get the exact numbers for the properties, which we can certainly plug these numbers in. But assuming a 50-foot sidewalk, the total cost for replacement under the city's contract of $80 per square yard would be roughly $2,222.40. So if you were to do that privately, on average, the going rate currently is approximately $110 per square yard, and that would be a $3,055.80. So not quite an $800 savings. I put in some different sizes of sidewalk, 35 feet, 75 feet, just so you can get a gauge as to how much it might cost. Certainly, there's some properties that have hundreds of feet of sidewalk, whereas others have very little. The cost of to the property owner, can get to that. Assuming I did 3 calculations based on bond, the length of the bond. Thank you. And a 20-year bond would assume roughly a 3.5% interest rate. That would come to $154.68 per year, or $12.89 per month. So that would cost $3,093.60 over that 20-year period. If we went to a 10-year bond, the numbers that I could find, and of course this is likely to change somewhat, was around 3.25%, and the approximate cost per month was $21.72, or $260.64 per year, which would be $2,606.40 over 20. That's supposed to be 10 years, a typo, for a 50-foot sidewalk. So that gives you a rough idea of the cost over varying times of bond length. The time frame, let's assume that it's approved this month. We know it takes, from what Ms. DeGenova told us, approximately 2 months for bonds to be issued. Best case scenario would be that we would start in September. Under that scenario, assuming good weather, the most sidewalk that we could do this year would be 5 miles, and that's on the high end. Probably be more towards 4 miles, but that would still allow those neighborhoods and there's a couple neighborhoods who are ready to get going, to get that done, and then next year we could certainly see about expanding that. But we could use this as a pilot project to see if it's something that's feasible, if it's something that we want to continue with. It's an option of getting our sidewalks repaired in the city at a more cost effective manner in some ways. People won't have to take it all at once. So it's an option of trying to work with the neighborhoods to get things done. And I think I answered most everybody's questions throughout the time. And if there's any others, I'll be happy to answer them.
Just one question. Under the cost for property owner,
yes,
and the 3 options you have here, the interest rate, is that interest rate total per month? Does that include interest rate plus costs, sidewalk costs, or that is interest rate only?
No, that's the interest rate and the cost.
Plus cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the interest rates, again, are what I was able to find in the research,
Okay.
but it would likely be a little bit different.
Additional questions? Ms. Brazel?
So I'll raise the
Trying to
same
do my
concerns I
math.
raised last time. Number one, I personally would have trouble supporting this if we didn't go beyond what legally was required to the negative connotation, to force the property owner to have their sidewalk fixed if they didn't. Right now it's 25% of the neighborhoods. Say we chose all of Union Street, 25% of those residents would have to agree for this to go forward. That would mean the other 75%, whether they were in agreement or they weren't in agreement, would have to go forward with it as well. So I I would feel far more comfortable if the council as a whole set that threshold through local law higher.
I think we all agree to that,
Right.
and maybe 70%.
Bring it
for
up at the
example.
table again. The other thing is Ms. DeGenova expressed some concern with our debt cap and how this looks going forward if we're bonding over and over again. And I thought in our discussions that you were going to seek alternate financing options. So I would still like to hear those because I have concern. I mean, odd things come to us like $24 million bond that we have to, we are forced into because of the DEC. Now, we feel quite confident that we can get other financing and go another route. But if we're looking at, say, bonding this over a 20-year period, that means we're building that amount of bonds that are out there over 20 years. So say we do, $1.5 million a year, have we anticipated what the entire amount of 200 miles of sidewalk would be? Whether we could get that done in 20 years, I'm sorry, so $424 million.
Now, certainly not all those sidewalks would need to be replaced.
Right.
Secondly, I did seek other alternatives for financing. Those options are not available to us. And regarding the debt itself, certainly the bond limit is a concern, but we are talking sustainable debt, which is different from the other kind of debt you're talking about. So as far as the bond rating goes, it shouldn't impact us at all. I've checked, not only do I know that, but I've checked with other individuals who know about bond ratings. We should be fine there. But your concern about the bond level is valid. And again, this is a project we do not have to approve. If we run into a situation in the future, we can say no.
Right. So my third concern is if we run this as a pilot program and say, well, let's just do this program and see how it works, how do we possibly get the neighborhood that is worthy of it, right? I mean, that seems like difficult to me. So we say, okay, well, we're going to do the stockade. Well, why not Mount Pleasant? Well, why not, Bellevue? Well, why not? So to me, I would want to be assured by Ms. DeGenova or by whatever means that we could actually, this program would be viable to do the entire city and not just start and stop, because I think that's difficult to choose one neighborhood over another. So I think we need, for the longevity of this project, to have the confidence from finance to say that this is viable in the long term for my comfort.
Well, in regards to picking neighborhoods, we already do that with paving and the projects we already do. So I do understand that concern, but I would rely on engineering's expertise as to what areas would be best to go for. Certainly, I'm not picking winners and losers because I'm not the one that's got the expertise there. So that is a valid concern, but we're already doing that to some extent with the projects that we do already undertake. So.
If I could just add to that, I think we discussed about the current ongoing pavement program that we have to look at doing the paving, coincide with the
and that's really
program with the paving at the same time. So that neighborhood is moving forward with paving sidewalk.
Right, and that's really what engineering was trying to do with some of the recommendations, is to have it coincide with that so that there is a bigger bang for your buck. So, but those are valid concerns.
But the stockade is not on our paving list this year, correct? I thought is it Bellevue or?
The draft is being prepared now.
Right.
It's not the primary zone.
Right.
So what engineering said was that they're looking at this year as well as next year in advance because it makes sense to do it in that manner so that you're getting it in place so that you have those things done.
Already done.
So like, for example, I don't know what it is going to be next year, but the talk was that it would be like Mount Pleasant kind of area, Hamilton Hill type area, would be ideal. But that's very premature discussion.
So again, you said you've been working. Have you been working with Deborah and Anthony on these numbers? I said, yeah, I understand that you've you've been getting numbers on your own, so how true are these numbers that, I mean, have you guys been agreeing with these numbers? Have you looked at these numbers? Or because this is the first time I've seen the numbers, being honest with you, so, and again, I appreciate all the work you're doing, but do these numbers add up?
The checklist we pointed out early on, I mean, here, but knowing that there's a new package, we certainly think that
And look at it.
make sure that it's $290 of interest for 20 years. It seems a little low to me, but I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion on this, and what are we looking to do? Where are we looking to go with this?
Well, I guess, well, I think one place we're looking to go is to make sure that, that finance looks at the numbers. I do have another question. As I understand it, the best way that you feel to do this is, is that we do it in conjunction with paving that's going to be done. The other part of that would be that, make sure that particular neighborhood said yes to this.
Right.
So we'd have to incorporate all of those things, because they may be getting their streets paved, but they may not say yes to this. So that would just kind of put them out already. So I think we have to look at trying to find the perfect storm. You know, the perfect scenario where it all comes together. They say yes, the street's being paved. I'm not sure how easy it is. I'm just telling you that I see that as one of the things that we have to.
Right, this is totally a neighborhood-run program. It's not something being forced on people. We're not shoving it down people's throats by any stretch.
Right.
If a community or neighborhood wants it and they go about it and it coincides with paving, that's really what it's about. It's not trying to shove something through.
I was just saying that, you know, those are things, because they may be getting a street paved, but just feel like financially right now, it's not something they can do. They may be waiting for that tax break to...
Which we're going to be having.
So. And then if we have city-owned properties, they just get bypassed on this?
Right, so how that might work. So that was a question Mr. Ferrari brought up.
Right.
So a lot of those properties we're selling, right? So when we look at those properties, we have a code estimate. Part of that code estimate should be sidewalks. And we would sell that property with the code estimate, including the sidewalk replacement. Now, should that neighborhood not be coming up, they could certainly, let's say it's coming up in the next year, they could wait for the program. But if it went through already, that would be part of the cost of the code.
The cost would be higher though, wouldn't it, John? Because now that group is all gone.
It would be, but...
It would have to be higher.
What would you rather do? Put it on the city?
Well, that's what my question is. What do we do? Brian, you just can't leave it empty either. Can't leave it sitting there.
But that certainly is an option.
Yeah.
Because we do have code estimates on all the properties that are sold.
Understood there.
It will be part of the requirement that when you purchase the property,
I mean,
fix the
sidewalks are
property,
part of code.
interior, and also the sidewalk. If this program already passes your
neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we looking to do? We're looking to get additional information. We're looking to, is there any public hearings or anything that we need on this, or?
Well, technically, from what I understand, the communities can bring this forward now. It's just whether or not we would want to pass this. And it's just bringing this forward towards the forefront to educate all of us, including myself, on this particular program.
Yeah, Mr. Reagan.
I guess this is for the mayor. Are we not going to do sidewalks as part of the paving program anymore? If this goes forward.
If this goes forward, it'll still be the council's decision. We had stopped that 5 years ago, so that we could concentrate on street surface. We're catching up now, and still, engineering would say we probably need another 2 years, including this year and next year, to be up to a reasonable level of maintaining street surface.
So then we would go back in the third year to doing the sidewalks.
Potential would be there in the discretion of the council.
And that's a default rate then figured in here? Because obviously some people are going to default like they are with their taxes now.
Right. So that's really tough to estimate what that would be. So we're looking maybe, I would say high end 10%, but to estimate that particular cost would be difficult without having exact figures there.
I'm looking to finance here. I think, go ahead, Ms. President.
I still feel like we need some really in-depth discussion with finance about that debt cap and what impact this could have on it. You know, again, we get that little huge surprise, like $24 million from, you know, in a consent order, and I just want to make sure there's plenty of room, you know. So I know that I would like personally to have a very deep quality conversation with this details about it for my own, you know, my own feelings, and then also have that really the essence of this brought to the council for consideration, because I think it's a really important thing for, as this builds over the course of 10 years or 20 years or however we choose to do it. So I think that's the one really super key piece for me, and then also for the council to decide and come to consensus on what that percentage of people who are going to participate looks like. Those are my two main questions.
John, go ahead.
Did we agree to up the requirement or percentage of the petitioners?
We did.
From 25 to what, 60%?
70, I think.
I don't think we agreed on
We didn't agree. It was a
It was a
discussion.
discussion, sorry.
Yeah, it was just a discussion.
What was the last?
I think the one number was 60%. Ms. Perazzo wanted 75, so I would suggest maybe 70 as a compromise.
And I don't, or, you know, we could do a straw poll or whatever the case may be, and I don't think we're ready to move this forward in any way without, you know, people can continue to think about that until we get some information.
All right, so work closely with, the discussion really has to be with finance, obviously.
So then, that's a good idea. So why don't we go and ask what people for 70%, 75%, 60%, so that way we move out of this.
Right.
And we don't have to revisit it back, and then maybe look at the numbers in the next round.
I'm just concerned about the number. I'm just concerned about the number. I don't care about the 60%, 70%. I mean, we can work that. That's not going to be a big number. But I just think we have to work closely with them and, of course, the mayor as well, making sure he has his support. And so I think, John, that's where you got to go. You got to go working with them. All the numbers you have are good, but we need solid numbers that deal with the city of Schenectady in particular, and out of Ms. D. Genova's office. I think that's the key. Of course, working with the mayor as well. And, yeah, we'll bring it back up, and again, I think it's all good discussion, you know, and wherever the timetable is, it'll be. But even let's really work hard at dig into it and bring it back in a couple of weeks. Right? And you okay with that, Anthony? And everyone do whatever, John? You're always here at City Hall every day anyway, so you might as well just put them on the damn books. Hire them full time. Opening on the council will be outside.
Maybe some of us want to learn stuff. I'm like,
there you go. We're all working, man. Everybody's out there. Well, listen, this is good stuff. Thank you very much. I think.
Mr. Palomini?
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I'll be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right. You're going, aren't you? Yeah.
Okay, so.
But can you work on in the meantime, though? You'll get.
I'll have the numbers. I'm confident in my numbers.
All right. All
First
right.
cycle
So.
in July then,
Yeah. There we
Mr.
go.
Thor?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. All right. Very good. Two more items here, real quick. Got the transfer of 866 Eastern Avenue to the Capital Region Land Bank. We just talked about that earlier today.
Actually, no, this was.
Oh, this is the other one.
The SURA meeting last
Yeah.
last month in May, just a cleanup item. It never actually made it to the city council agenda to do the full transfer over to the land bank.
Right.
So this is just a second action from a previous SURA meeting.
Moved by Ms. Porterfield, second by Ms. Bonavera. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good job, Jackie. Stay right there. 310 Green Street.
And then this goes with the SURA item. So it's just transferring 310 Green Street to the land bank.
Another Sarah. Ms. Porterfield, Mr. Bonavera, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. And I just need a motion to go into recess. Right?
So moved.
Ms.
Second.
Bonavera, Ms. Porterfield, all in favor, say aye. And Madam President, I am leaving. I'm going to the county meeting right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I will be.
Off from on the county agenda tonight.
Mr. Mover, you want to handle public safety? Health and Recreation, the Vale Park Partnership is put off the cycle. So we don't need to convene Health and Recreation unless Ms. Burnfield has. Very good. Do you want to?
Call to order public safety. First item, the appointment to the Civilian Police Review Board. Mr. Richard Shave. Mr. Mayor.
He's been recommended by League of Women Voters and submitted to the council for your consideration and ask for favorable review.
Questions? Concerns? Ask for a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is ceremonial resolution. Coleman, Patrick, Irving.
Yes. Mr. Riggy and I duped this out, but I got my request in first.
You had an advantage. Can you guys share it?
So this is just to recognize Patrolman Irwin, who saved a life off duty. I think we can certainly never appreciate our emergency personnel enough, and I know certainly the woman's life he saved must be appreciative. So just like to recognize his good work, and simple as that.
Okay. Questions? Ask for a motion?
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. I move we adjourn.
All right. I just observed there's a letter here, another letter for appointment, the police appointment. Mr. Randolph McGoo,
No, that's affirmative action.
No, it's not.
the Human Rights Commission.
It's a civilian police.
Oh,
Civilian Police Review.
No, Human
Your
Rights.
That's probably who's recommending him.
Oh,
But the appointment is to the Civilian Police Review Board. Reappointment.
can you look at the letter
I
after?
think, wasn't this a reappointment?
Yeah, this is
Human
a-
Rights Commission? I think it's a typo, Mayor.
No. It's reappointment.
I spoke with Mr. Frank about this. I believe it was reappointment of Mr. Magoo to the Human Rights, not the
No.
Human Rights Commission, no.
He's a Human
To
Rights
the
Commission
affirmative
representative.
action.
No, he resigned from there.
Right.
This is for the Police Community Review Board,
Right.
and he's recommended by
By the Human Rights Commission.
Human Rights Commission.
Right.
Oh.
So can we add this?
That
to-
slot.
So I apologize when I gave Mr. Shave, I should have,
So we have two slots open.
correct.
Sorry.
So
He's
can-
already in a position, they're just
Yeah.
reappointing him.
Yeah, if there's no questions, I'm happy to move.
Is there any concern that we can add this and pass it tonight, this evening? Since it's not on the agenda?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
We just need a motion. As long as there's no questions.
There's no objection?
I move that we appoint Randolph Magoo to the City of Schenectady Civilian Police Review Board.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And just get a revised letter from the mayor and you approve both minutes.
Okay.
So I move we adjourn.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Call in order, Public Service and Utilities. We have one item on the agenda, is the final review on the moratorium on taxi licenses. We had one speaker at the last meeting, but I don't think he realized that we're talking about having the moratorium. He was just really looking for his rate increase and things like that. So as for right now, are we all in agreement that we'd like to have a 30-day moratorium placed on the taxes?
Mr. Parasso, did you have a chance to talk to Karen from CBTA? You said you were going to meet with them. Did I have a meeting with you?
That is nothing that they're ready to put forth yet. So yes, I did, but we need to focus on our own
Right.
code.
I just didn't know if that had anything to do with this, with the moratorium.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a different focus, so I just think we should move forward with our own thing for now.
was 30 days going to be enough for us to gather enough information?
Well, that's what we had the public hearing for, so that's what we're in for now.
Yeah.
So I plan on putting it on the next agenda, and I will remind the council to please review the code so we can come to the table with recommendations. So that gives us 2 cycles.
Just to add that from, this came up with our last moratorium as well. You can extend a moratorium by one kind of amount of time that it's originally for without having another public hearing or passing another resolution. Or you can pass a resolution and have another public hearing. So if you wanted to extend it 30 days, you could do that.
Okay, so we'll keep that on the radar then. But hopefully we can move along. I mean, the code, if you look at the code, it's not a lengthy section. I think we can, if we come with some recommendations, we can get it through.
Are we going to get some input from
We may need a public
Sergeant
hearing.
here again?
We will need- Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody move that.
Yeah, you will.
Second.
All in favor? Any other items to come before public service and utilities? All right, all in favor? We're adjourned.
Call to order claims. Entertaining motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.